Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to my podcast, Let 'em Bacon. My name is Jesus Barron. And well, here it is, the much anticipated response to Bassem Youssef in reaction to his interview with Piers Morgan. Now, I was supposed to respond to this video yesterday night. I was supposed to post the video then, but I had some family things that I had to take care of, and unfortunately, life happens, and it's been postponed till either today or tomorrow, or at the time of this video, whatever day that is, right? I have a full-time life, so hence it's not as easy. So either way, it's really important to tackle this interview because it's a viral interview right now. Now, if you guys don't know, it's about Mr. Bassem Youssef, who was interviewed by Piers Morgan, and it created quite a stir on social media because Mr. Bassem Youssef seemed to be very prepared. He was able to, in my opinion, twist and manipulate his narrative to appear like he was factual, and Piers Morgan was not ready for him. Now, it doesn't mean that Piers Morgan was not being direct or confident or anything like that. It seems like he was not completely prepared to handle the questions or the statement that Mr. Youssef had. Now, if you don't know who Mr. Bassem Youssef is, and I'm going to be reading off Wikipedia here, he is an Egyptian comedian and television host who hosted El Bernameg, the show, a satirical Egyptian political news program from 2011 to 2014, and is dubbed as Egypt's Jon Stewart. So just a little bit about who this gentleman is. And like I said, right now he's really viral all over social media, TikTok and everything, because it makes it look like he put Piers Morgan in a hard bind, right? And they call Piers Morgan a liar because of some things we'll talk about later. Now, right off the bat, Mr. Bassem Youssef, being of Arab nationality, naturally, he goes on to talk about Ben Shapiro. And this is what he had to say.
Ben Shapiro is one of the smartest people who ever walked this earth. He's very, very smart. I follow him, and I believe everything he said. And when he came on your show, his solution was, and I quote, his solution was that the solution for this is for Israel to annex Gaza and to kill as many son of bitches as possible to make sure that this will never happen again. And anyone who called for a ceasefire will be a terrorist sympathizer. So God forbid, I don't want to be labeled as a terrorist sympathizer.
Now, before I respond to Mr. Youssef, let me go ahead and tell you who Ben Shapiro is. Ben Shapiro is an American lawyer, columnist, author, and conservative political commentator. Shapiro writes columns for Creators Syndicate, Newsweek, and AMI Magazine, and serves as editor for the Daily Wire, which he co-founded. So I have listened to Mr. Ben Shapiro for quite a while now. He's very smart, very well-spoken, and ever since these attacks happened in Israel, he's been very passionate. Naturally. Why? Because he's Jewish. That's his people. Now, Mr. Youssef, now this is my personal opinion. What's a country supposed to do? You just had a bunch of people break into your country, knock down your border, and at a very personal level, we're talking taking a couple of these and taking a couple of those, knives, explosives, and going home to home, just killing and massacring people. We're talking families, kids, old people, women, old men, no mercy whatsoever. What are you supposed to do? These are terrorists, for crying out loud. Terrorists. You cannot ask me to ask for a ceasefire. You cannot come into my house, slap me across the face, and be like, whoa. Chill now, chill. Don't hit me. Truce. Nah, man. Especially when our duty as leaders of our country, if I was the leader of a country, my job is to protect my people, no matter what. If that means going above and beyond, way past proportional force, I'm going to go past proportional force. You see, the problem with Hamas is not only that they went in there and killed all these people and that are gaslighting the rest of the world with fake propaganda news and blowing up their numbers or making up stuff. It's just plain evil, gaslighting, projection, whatever you want to call it, of just how nasty they are. Making up a story, making up media, and even Mr. Youssef, making up things about that hospital. Now, let me be careful here. At the time of me editing this video, there's new information coming out. There's new information coming out that the attack, the bombing at that hospital, wasn't the people from Israel, wasn't the IDF. It was the very, very same people from these terrorists at Hamas, these Hamas terrorists. Now, let me go ahead and show you what he said.
100 people were killed, including 5,000 son of bitches in the bombing of the Baptist hospital as we speak right now.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but did I just hear 5,000? 5,000. You see, the problem when you give false information, and I mean, this is how I'm interpreting this, okay? When you're on a national news platform and you throw out information like that, even if it's false, you're going to cause damage. Because by the time it gets fact-checked or deconflicted, it's spread around the whole world. Everybody saw it. Now people are like, wow, 5,000 people were injured or killed. There's got to be some sense of responsibility for what you say. Because now we know that it was a Hamas militant rocket that failed. Didn't even hit the hospital. It hit the parking lot next to the hospital. And news says that it wasn't even that many people. Now, we need to be careful because all loss of life is bad. But so is false media, false propaganda, the doctoring of stories to cause resentment and hate against a group of people. And you have to be careful about that stuff. So, Mr. Youssef, you have to be careful about what you say. And to be honest, at this point of this whole interview, I would much rather take marriage advice from Mia Khalifa than continue hearing what this man says.
Marriage is not a sanctimonious thing.
Marriage is not a sanctimonious thing.
Okay. It shouldn't be proportional when it comes to fighting off terrorists. Why would it be proportional? This is what Ben Shapiro had to say about that.
Frankly, I don't believe in proportionate response to terrorism. I believe that the way that you stop terrorism is with wildly disproportionate response. That doesn't mean in terms of targeting civilians. It means in terms of killing as many terrorists as humanly possible.
And the sad thing is that because of all the propaganda that's been said all around the world, we have protesters in different countries. We have protesters in our own country. Embassies getting burned out. People getting killed for no reason. This is dangerous stuff, man. This is evil stuff. Proportionate response is not the answer. We have to attack evil. We have to find evil. And the worst part about this is that we're not even fighting a uniformed soldier or an army. This is people that look just like you and I. This is people that are wearing in civilian clothes and hiding amongst the population. How do you find these people? The IDF, at the very least, have uniforms. You know they're an army. You can see their equipment. You can see who they are. Where are these Hamas militants? You can't separate them from the regular populace from that person or that person. That's inherently evil in itself, because that places the burden on the civilian population, on your own people, to be able to distinguish who's the good person and who's the bad person.
Question is, what is a proportionate response? Because it has been different from one tier to another. So if you look to this graph, for example, this is the death of Israeli and Palestinians, and it's changing from 1 year to year. It's like fluctuating like crypto. So my question is today, what is the going rate today for human lives? I mean, 2014 was a great year for Ben Shapiro. 88 Israelis were died, and there was 2,329 Palestinians killed on the other side.
Problem with the graph that Mr. Youssef just provided with is that it's not accurate, and I'll tell you why. There was an article at the New York Times on August 5th of 2014 titled, "Civilian or Not, New Fight and Tallying the Dead from the Gaza Conflict." See, the problem is, during this entire conflict that Gaza has with Israel, Gaza has a tendency to include its non-combatants and its combatants all together into one lump sum. So you can never tell who really is civilian and who really is a combatant. All these casualties are just lump summed into one, and then they blow up the numbers, so then the numbers are skewed, and then they present these numbers to the world, and everybody thinks that Israel is just going on a killing rampage, which is not true. Once again, I'll give you that title, and I'm going to post it right here. You can look it up for yourself. It kind of reminds me of these issues that we had with COVID, when we were blowing up the numbers about the number of people that were dying from COVID, and everybody was saying, oh, this person died of COVID, that person died of COVID. Coming to find out, it was skewed numbers as well. Because if somebody had heart disease and they got a heart attack and they so happen to have COVID at the same time, they automatically made it a COVID death. If you were even, I'll go as far as saying, if you were in a car accident and you had COVID, they would call it a COVID death. That's the same way these Gaza Hamas militants count their dead when it comes to civilians. If you don't believe it, look for it yourself. That's the beauty of the internet.
For a minute, imagine a world without Hamas.
Right.
What will this world look like? Let's give this word a name, and let's name this word the West Bank. Hamas has absolutely no control in the West Bank, and since the beginning of this year, only through August, 37 Palestinian kids were killed. No music festival, no paragliding, no Hamas.
See, the problem that I continue to have with Mr. Youssef is that he continues to make the people from Israel seem like they're the evil ones. They're the ones that are causing all the problems. They're the ones that are causing terror. See, he mentions the West Bank. He mentions that, everybody gets terrorized in the West Bank. All the Palestinians are victims from violence caused by people from Israel. But that's not true. Historically, there has always been a clash between the people from Israel and the Palestinians. Always. The problem is that it's not all the people from Israel that are causing these problems. Here's some examples right here. What do you call that? What do you call that? Or what about this one right here? See, the problem is Palestinians, I'm getting the impression that they don't like to get called out. They don't like to be put on check for the things that they do. I feel like they just like to slap, cause havoc, punish, hurt people, but never get the consequences.
I would say I really applaud Israel for doing one thing that no military force in the world does. Because I heard Ben Shapiro and I heard Ron DeSantis, and they said Israel is the only military force in the world that warns civilians before bombing them. I mean, how fucking cute. That is so nice of them. Because with this logic, if Russian troops started warning Ukrainians before bombing their houses, we're cool with Putin, right?
I don't know, Mr. Youssef. What do you think's the difference here? What's the difference? Oh, maybe it's the fact that Ukrainians didn't go into Russia and start killing all the old people, all the young people, all the kids, start raping their women. I wonder what the difference is. What's the difference? Is it the fact that Ukraine didn't start this war? Russia did? You see, there is this inherent responsibility when you decide to attack a country. You essentially lose all rights to have any real say as to the outcome, as to the consequences that you're going to suffer. Because the fact of the matter is, being able to get a warning for an attack is a very big tactical disadvantage for Israel. Because at this point, Hamas militants know where those strikes are going to happen, what time essentially, and they can make preparations to either get out of there, move to a different location, or counterattack. I'm pretty sure that's a big advantage for Hamas. And I don't know about you, but I would actually appreciate a big warning if my government was a terrorist government and they were attacking me. I would actually see that for what it is, something good. Especially knowing that my government or my country was the instigator in the whole situation. What a way to twist and manipulate things to make it look like what Israel is doing can be justified. It very well can be justified. And it's something that is admirable because it saves lives. You cannot compare Russia and Israel. One more time, Ukraine didn't go into Russian borders and start killing people. Russia did. Just like Israel didn't just go and start striking and killing people and Palestinians or bombing, carpet bombing as you call it. No. It was a response to something Hamas militants did. So let's be real about these things.
Killing babies is horrible. But when you say decapitated 40 babies, you are planting a certain image
Well, who
with
has
a
said
certain
that?
trigger in people's mind.
Who has said
Huh?
that? Who has said 40?
Who has said that?
Who has said that?
40 decapitated.
Who has said
you
that?
You have repeat.
No, I haven't.
What?
I've never said that.
You haven't said on your show 40 decapitated
No.
babies?
Never.
One thing I've learned, Mr. Youssef, is that words mean things. Words definitely mean things. But I'm pretty sure you don't understand because you're out there spreading false media, false narratives, false propaganda. To you, words don't mean things because you just spit them out, right? Without the consequence of what you're saying. So I'm not too surprised about your statement and your attack against Mr. Piers Morgan. Because I went back and I looked at Mr. Piers Morgan's interview. He did not say 40 decapitated babies. He did not say that. Words mean things. Break it down word by word. What does he actually say? What does he say? Is it 40 decapitated babies? You tell me. Is he lying? Let's see.
I choked up earlier reading this new revelation about 40 babies being killed.
Oh my God.
And some of them
Don't.
being beheaded. And I was like, how can any human being do that to a baby?
I don't know. I don't know. It's totally barbaric. It's not the sort of thing a human being does.
No.
If you're going to hold Mr. Piers Morgan accountable, you need to hold yourself accountable. If you're going to hold him accountable for something he said or didn't say, in this case, hold yourself accountable. What happened earlier in this video when we were talking about these hospital deaths and the attack that Israel did on this hospital, supposedly? What was the end result of that? It was Hamas militants. So what did Mr. Piers Morgan really say? What did he say? 40 babies died, or were killed, I should say, and some of them decapitated. Words mean things. No, he did not say 40 decapitated babies. He said 40 babies were killed, and maybe some of them were decapitated. Words mean things. So, if you're going to hold yourself accountable, or hold someone else accountable, I should say, you need to hold yourself accountable.
Where is the Nelson Mandela figure here to come through all this
Nelson
hatred on both sides?
Mandela?
Yeah,
Well,
where is that
Nelson
figure?
Nelson Mandela actually have criticized Israel for being a horrible state. All of the South African...
I know.
And one more time, here we go with partial truths. The twisting, the manipulation, the forming of a narrative just so it appeases your audience. Again, modifying history. One more time. Nelson Mandela. Yes, Nelson Mandela had a grudge against the way things were happening in the Middle East with Israel and Palestinians. But here's the thing. Nelson Mandela also believed that the Jews were entitled to have their own land with borders as a nation, be identified as a nation. It wasn't just that he didn't like Israel. No. You can't form this narrative and just cut part of the truth that suits you and leave the other part behind. What did Nelson Mandela really say? What did he say?
I went further, however, to say that the support for Yasser Arafat in his struggle does not mean that the ANC has ever doubted the right of Israel to exist as a state legally. We have stood quite openly and firmly for the right of that state to exist within secured borders. But, of course, as I said to Mr. Signal in Geneva and others, that we carefully define what we mean by secure borders. We do not mean that Israel has the right to retain the territories they conquered from the Arab world, like the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, and the West Bank.
How interesting, this pattern that we're seeing, this pattern of manipulation and half-truths, this pattern of you skewing the numbers here or saying false information there, just a little bit here and there, just to make it seem like it's legit. But it's not. It's not legit. Clearly, Nelson Mandela said that Israel needs to be recognized as a state with its borders, as a country, not in Gaza Strip, not in the Golan Heights, not in the West Bank. And since this speech was said back in 1990, Israel is not in the Gaza Strip. As a matter of fact, it wasn't in the Gaza Strip when these attacks happened. They're hardly even in the West Bank. Golan Heights is a different story. That was land that was acquired during the Syrian 6-day war or whatever that was. But nevertheless, these false little narratives, these half-truths that Nelson Mandela didn't really like the Israelites or the people of Israel, that's not true. He clearly recognizes that they need to be seen as a people. But you twist it. Just to plant, like you said, plant that seed, right?
A victim. Dealing with Israel is so difficult. It's like being in a relationship with a narcissistic psychopath. He fucks you up and then he makes you think it's your fault.
I don't know about you guys. I don't know about you, Mr. Youssef, but if you see this video again, let's rewind it from the very beginning. Who's the narcissistic person here? Who's the one that's gaslighting, projecting? Who's the one that's making all these false narratives, false images, and the twisting of information? Ever since this interview, who's been right and who's been wrong? Did I not just show you articles, videos, everything, proof that everything that you said has been manipulated or twisted or made to seem like what you were saying was the truth? Who's the narcissistic, abusive person or whatever you said Israel is like? That's you. That's you and everything you stand for, along with all the Hamas terrorists. This is you doing all this propaganda, all this fake news, all this blowing up the numbers so that what? The whole world can turn on Israel. So who's a real false person here? Who's the one that's planting seeds of evil, how you accuse Mr. Piers Morgan? That's you. That's you and everybody like you.
The managing director of the Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's company, we were going to interview him on his own, but he's happy to come on and talk with you directly if you are prepared to stay.
Well, of course, I can stay, but again, I am in a disadvantage, and I would like to have my space to respond.
What happened? What happened? Little nervous, aren't we? Everybody saw it. I saw it. You got nervous. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. Let's see what Mr. Jeremy Boring has to say about this.
First of all, the question of how many sons of bitches have to be killed in order to end this conflict, I suppose that the answer is as many of them as it takes. That's right. And this has been Jesus Barone with Lead and Bacon Podcasts. See you next time.